Okay. In case you don't know what this week's iWorld about is, for those of you who have been living under a rock, it's kind of obvious. And there's the echo. You do realize I can hear myself through your system, right?
Pardon?
Every word I say is coming out of your system.
Yeah.
Well, this will be brought to you by Echovision. Which apparently has just stopped. I guess Skype auto-synced it enough. It's like, I don't know. Anyways, we don't know where Bit is. He's playing hiatus. He'll probably show up late and expect us to go over everything again like we did last week. Let's see. In the infinitesimal iWorld, apparently Steve Jobs bought an Aston Martin just to show up. It's like I don't think he really showed up in an Aston Martin. He just it's like, you know, I thought Steve Jobs had stepped down so, you know, they could give other people a scientist on, but I'm honestly wondering now if he wasn't like playing hooky just so, hey, Steve's back, you know. Do we think he was even sick? You know,
I think, to be honest, I think the one problem I think a lot of people did see with him being out of the situation was with the keynotes is that there was nobody at the current point that could just step into his shoes right off the bat. I mean, from what I saw watching, following on from one of the live blogs when it was being done, there were parts of the keynote where other people were doing segments of it, so it seems like to me what they're trying to do is bring more people gradually out into the spotlight.
Well, but all the past Apple announcements, that's how they've been. It hasn't been blah, 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 I'm Steve Jobs, blah, 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 blah. And here's the other talented people at Apple. That's the way it's always been. And if they get it wrong, I'll hang them tomorrow. Maybe I'll hang them now. I don't know. Where's that gallows? You know, anybody know? It's like, it's like you know, it's just, you know, of course they started with the blah, blah, blah numbers like they always do. You know, it was an atypical Apple keynote thing. Blah, 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 we have thousands of books, blah, 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 thousands of publishers, blah, 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 millions of accounts. It's like
conveniently, just after they launched the subscription model before a lot of them probably take a walk.
Yeah, it's, well, and you know, it was very clear that the undertone of this entire announcement was basically, F our competition, we're doing better, and you know, I'm just like, you know, that was the iPhone announcements like a year ago, and now numbers are something you really don't want to talk about at iPhone announcements, as a matter of fact, you know. And, you know, it's like they were doing things like putting a bee up, you know, attacking honeycomb and sun and all this. So it's like, it's this very clearly, you know, F you, you know, they have blah, we're bigger, we're son. I'm like, and I don't see it staying that way. No matter what Apple does, Apple could release a gold-plated platinum iPad for the iPad 3. And I guarantee you, 1 to 2 years from now, Apple is neither going to be dominating market share nor the number of apps. So it's just, it's interesting for them to get up there and do all this nanny nanny boo boo nanny nanny boo boo nanny nanny boo boo. It's valid facts for now, but it's one of those, and I'm sure, I haven't been watching the fanboys. I've been taking a hiatus from auditing the fanboys for the last few months. But I'm sure every frickin' fanboy and Apple fan site's going out there going, see, we're on top. We're leading everything. We're blah, blah, blah. This is one of the reasons I was hoping Bit would be here tonight. But, oh well, I guess he decided he has better things to do.
But then again, I mean, the thing is that I like the way I see it is that, you know, you can't expect them not to use it while they've got the chance. You know, even if it is going to go down a large amount in the next 12 months, the thing is that you can't expect them not to say they're on top now while they are, surely.
Well, yeah, it's just every time Apple comes out and says they're on top, it's like within a year they're not on top. It's like it's like all of a sudden this is irrelevant. You know, we're quality over quantity. Well, if it's irrelevant now, why was it relevant then? I'm confused. You know, it's like pick a story and go with it. Damn it. I did find a little bit of Apple magic thrown in the beginning. You know, they were pointing out we're in the third post-PC announcement. You know, because Apple's all about it's post-PC, it's post-PC. You know,
yeah, post-PC, they mean Windows, I'm sure.
No, they say post-PC. You know, all about iOS, of course. Yeah. Yeah, but there was one point, and I wrote it down here, but damn it, I was writing down every frickin' thing that was being said, so I'm sorry. At one point, he like rebranded post PC. I think it was new. Let me see. I think he said like new PC. Yes, it's not post PC anymore. It's next PC. I'm like, wait a minute. So we've gone from Mac versus PC to post PC to the next PC. I'm like. Only in the Apple magic, Apple iWorld universe does that make any sense at all. It's like,
we'll give them credit for recycling terms and moving around from one thing to the next every 5 minutes. I'll give them that.
Well, here's what's so absurd about that. You know, just to go into it for a moment. PCs are bad. We hate PC. This is the cycle that Apple's gone through the last few years. PCs are bad, we hate PCs, we're better than PCs. We're in a post-PC era. We've won. We didn't really win. We haven't dominated market share. We don't, but we've declared victory. We're in the post-PC era. Okay, now we are the PC. Apple is the PC. We're the next PC in the form of iOS. My head's spinning. I don't know about the rest of you. It's like I guess I just don't get it. Like,
I think it's what I think it's like what some people have said. It's just a case of recycling terms just for the sake of marketing. Really, you know, it's basically, I suppose, for people who are silly enough to swallow all that.
Well, and I guess we know now why they killed the Mac versus PC ads. Because you can't call yourself the next PC and then be saying PCs suck. You know, those two just don't really jive together. Hi, we're the next suck. I'm sorry, all. And those of you who are Apple fans, maybe you can set me right, but it's like I just don't know. It's... You know, and like, you know, I love when Apple brings this magic number up. You know, Apple always loves to talk about revenue. And they said, we have billions in revenue. Okay. I don't care about gross, I care about net. You know, I grossed a lot last year. I didn't net a lot. You know, of course, you know, I according to the IRS, I'm an evil SOB because of what I gross, even though I'm, you know, struggling to pay some bills and other things. Like, you know, he takes time to point out that the Galaxy sucks. You know, Android sucks. You know, and it's like, okay, Steve, you're entitled to your opinion. It's, you know, counting the 6,500 specific apps. So we've given Bit plenty of time to show up, so he can just come in mid-conversation if he does show up. You know, they did plenty of bashing on Honeycomb and other stuff.
Yeah, like I say, well, that seems to be one of the things that's what they even said about the iPad. That's what they used to build up the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like they spent dang near 30 minutes going over specs about why they're better, why, you know, you should be backing Apple. But like, as you pointed out, an Apple user, well, those may change in the next 60 days. But you know, all this blah blah blah. Android, that's brand new, sucks. Us, that's been around. Well, okay, tablet Android's brand new. Us, that's been around for a year, is better. Like that was basically the first 30 minutes, and we're gonna say this over and over and rub it in, and it's blah 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 blah. I want to hear next year's speech now. That's what I found hysterical though. This is Apple's own words. Literally, this is what Steve Jobs got on that stage and said when he introduced the iPad 2. And Apple, this has always been what Apple does, but they've never just outright said it. The fact that Steve Jobs can get on stage and say these words, and the Apple people are happy that he said them, is just, what the? All new design, and it makes the old iPad obsolete. That is literally what he said. He literally got up there and said, all of you dumbasses who bought an iPad are morons because we just made it a piece of shit.
Wow, that one flew over my head when I was reading the blog. That's blimey, wow. I don't know what to say about that.
It literally, his exact words were, made to make your old iPad obsolete. Those were his exact words. Made to make the device all of you bought. 15 million of you bought them. And we made this to make all of those pieces of shit.
Wow.
Did he just say that?
I mean, I'll have to not well, it may not, it probably will be in there, but I'm going to have to check out the thing on YouTube afterwards, because I tell you, I cannot believe he actually said that. I mean,
no, those were his exact words. That was literally how he got up there and introduced it. All new design, made to make your old iPad obsolete. Those were the exact words.
That's one way to, piss off all your previous buyers.
Apparently not in the iWorld.
Well, I mean, the thing is
that would piss me off. If somebody's introducing their new product and going, we made this to make what you bought a piece of trash. Like, especially with rumors circulating around about an iPad 3. I'm like, so what are they going to say when they announce the iPad 3? Hi, we made this to make you look like a moron. It's like, I mean, how do you top that? It's just
I mean, dear, I did talk about all the people that went out and got the first one. It wasn't really fully functional compared to what it could have been, and then they get told the new ones to make it obsolete. Look, that's nice.
Well, and it's not like that's any real surprise, but it's one thing for it to kind of be obvious, and it's another thing to just outright say it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like you say, it's one thing when you're sort of saying it in a roundabout way, but to say it outright, it's another thing altogether.
Yeah, it really is one of those, Anyways, I was wrong. Bit was right about it going dual core. So, Apple is now, quote-unquote, comparable in hardware to other people, which I guess is a kind of good thing. You know, they have a A5 processor. 5, everybody. It's like, you know, they didn't say it's an ARM processor, but we all know it's an ARM processor. They said their graphics is 9 times faster graphics. We'll see how much of that is marketing. It's not, you know, we don't have hard specs on that yet. I'm sure within the next, these come out on the 11th. So within 2 weeks from now, we'll have this thing torn apart. We'll know the exact amount of memory in it. We'll know the particulars of all of this stuff. But right now, we only have the specs that Apple's giving. And it needed a better processor. Apple talked nothing about the memory. I hope they upgraded the amount of memory in this thing. Because if it still has 256 of memory, I don't care that the graphics is better, it's not going to be able to really utilize it if you're doing anything.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said the same, that they're hoping that they've improved it, but surely if they had done, they would have said something about it.
Well, here's the problem with that. Apple never talks about, this is like a spec Apple doesn't talk about. Every time they've launched an iPhone, they don't say how much memory it has. The way we find out how much memory an iPhone or an iPad has is somebody like Gizmodo takes it apart and goes, oh, in case you were wondering, it's this much, because that's what we took out of it. They don't ever say. Their spec sheet doesn't say. Sometimes it gets added, but most of the time it doesn't. Like, let me go to apple.com right now, and let me see. It's like, I guarantee you it doesn't say, oh, of course, I get to watch this new, thinner, lighter FaceTime-ier. Yes. It's thinner, lighter, and FaceTime-ier. I'm glad it's thinner, lighter, and FaceTime-ier. And, of course, it's white. Again, I state what I stated last week. Where are the white iPhones? You had time to make a white iPad. Where are the white iPhones? You know, it's like, that's the obvious question. Oh, this is something I guarantee is going to be cut out of the thing that winds up. When Steve Jobs got up there and said, available in white at ship, everybody chuckled. They just kind of went, yeah, right, Steve, like the iPhone 4, right? It's like, let me see, memory. Yeah, no, they do not say. Yeah, like they say the models, they say the weight, the wireless, the carriers, you know, the display, the chip, the A5 chip, camera, something, but they don't say the memory. It's like, this is just the spec Apple doesn't give out on these devices. I'm like, that's not important. You know, the fact that it has half what the competition, that's not important. That's never important, you know. You're focusing on the wrong thing if you're looking at specs. Buy the Apple Magic. There he is! I knew he'd show up. You're late!
What do you want? I worked on the Microsoft camera to get it not to do anything auto.
Okay, cool. We're obviously talking about the iPad.
Okay.
But before we continue to move on, I want to get your 2 cents on the magical little words of Steve Jobs, where when he introduced the thing, he used the words, made to make your old iPad obsolete.
No, I mean, I'm not particularly a fan of the iPad, so.
Well, but what do you think of Steve Jobs getting on stage and basically stating, you know, building up to launching a thing, you know, we've sold 15 million iPads, we have all these things, all these subscribers. Here's the new one, and we designed it specifically to make the 15 million y'all already bought obsolete.
Well, I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. He misquoted the Samsung guy. He misquoted.
I don't think he. I think he meant to. I don't think that was a mistake.
No, Samsung guy didn't say that they had to apologize for retract a statement. You didn't hear that?
No, I didn't hear they retracted that. That's one I missed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they don't have 90% of the market share because the Samsung Android tablets, along with the other, I guess, smaller Android devices, the little tablet devices, in the last quarter of 2010 garnered 25% of the market share. So.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to call them on that because it's iWorld, but yeah, that was one of the things we were talking about before you got here. It's like, it's interesting that Apple yet again is standing up here making all these arguments based on market share and more apps, and like, doesn't this sound like about a year ago with the iPhone, which now Apple would never do because it is not the case.
Well, it's that old adage, you know, when you're securing your position, you don't feel like you need to debate anything. Obviously, Apple feels very threatened by Android, or they really wouldn't be bringing up all these little tidbit points. You know what I'm saying?
Well, honestly, the entire first 30 minutes of Steve Jobs' announcements was basically suck my apple, Android. You know, it was basically the undertone of that entire thing, because it was calling the Galaxy by name. It was putting Android logos up there. It was literally, you know, going nanny nanny, screw you, Android. was the entire tone of that first 30 minutes. That was the entire point of that, and it's just. I realize Android's.
Then again, though, is that really a smart move when, you know, that's basically reminding everyone there is another choice out there? I don't really call that a smart move.
Whether it's smart or not, the next year will tell. It is classic Apple. It really is classic Apple. You know that they might have been able to get a. You can tell Steve is a little annoyed, to be honest, at Android.
Yeah.
He's
I got that impression.
There was an undertone to this entire announcement, very much the same undertone as when Steve had to get out there and basically apologize for Antenagate. You know, there's when Steve is pissed off, there's this undertone to his character that is, I should not even have to be talking about this. Y'all should know Apple is magical and better, and I shouldn't have to tell you that. There's this undertone when he has to actually sell that he's like, why am I having to sell this? You should know it already. And that undertone was definitely there. The other thing we were talking about before you chimed in is we don't know yet if they've upgraded the memory or not. I'm assuming they had to have at least.
They did announce it that it's just the same as the iPhone 4. It's up to 512.
Okay.
From 256.
So they did. Okay, so they did upgrade. Still, 512 when most things are having a gig.
That's right. I know. I'm surprised they had a dual core.
I already gave you credit for guessing that right. I was shocked, but I'm like, okay, maybe they do kind of see it, the writings on the wall. Although I did have to laugh that when they announced the dual core, they claimed that they're the first to have a dual core.
Oh, I know. That's,
and I'm sure all the Apple fanboys will repeat it.
There was an article that was even explaining that the Dell something or other streak has been in volume, I mean, since January with T-Mobile, and then what is the Motorola Zoom not I mean, what is there was this article that was talking about what is Steve Jobs' definition of volume. You know what I'm saying?
Anything that Apple makes and everything else is just junk, you know? That's the only definition that makes sense for that statement to be true. It really is. You know what? I hate to do this, and I was talking about with, you know, like I'm wondering now if his sick leave was you know, just improvised to, you know, make him coming back for this announcement more. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's not, but some of the things coming.
I don't think.
Well, there's not enough. We don't know what the deal was there at all. But some of the statements he was making, you know, like when they interview the guy from Libya, when the BBC was interviewing the guy from Libya, and he's like, "My people love me, my people." Didn't you kind of almost like, wait, I saw this interview before, I saw this, and there was some of that going on with just some of the statements being made in this announcement. We're supposed to be more pro-Apple over here, but it's hard when you're just outright saying not true things.
Here's what I don't like. It's usually my same mantra. You know, the Apple crowd is not the same that it was back in the day. You know, it's gone from geeks to, I don't know what the heck you want to describe the majority of them today as. But the technical side of things are really absent. And I'm tired of, I guess I'm tired of, well, no matter what is said, we've got to somehow defend it and say it's better. When, I mean, there's a lot of writing on the wall for hardware, and then feeble statements from Steve Jobs saying, well, tech specs aren't everything. You gotta look at, you gotta look like what was his words, a compounded picture. I'm sorry, I mean, for me, look, you know, you you weren't able to get the entire iPad up to par with the rest of the tablets or tablet-like devices out there, and just face up to it. I don't understand this mentality now that I'm seeing from a tremendous amount of Apple defenders going out there and like, oh, see now Android's even worse off, and forget it. This is just decimating and blah 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 blah. And
well, I mean, I've done my fair share of Zoom bashing as a latest.
I understand, but
it deserves to be bashed, but
my point of it is that it didn't used to be like this. I guess in the crowds when I was with Apple, when Microsoft made a move, yeah, that was it. Okay, and then there was a counter move, but now I see there's more of a glossing effect. It doesn't matter what's underneath, as long as we're just going to make it nice and shiny and polished, and Apple's always going to be number one. I mean, I hate to say it, the iPhone's already lost is no longer the number one market share holder. Android is the number one market share device, and the iPad will also follow suit. I mean, it's just a typical Apple trend, and what I can't stand is that people will say, oh no, people aren't going to give up their iPads, and Apple's going to always be number one in this market. And, I mean, history just constantly repeats itself. Android or WebOS or whomever, or in that combination, will gain the upper hand on Apple. It's the way that Apple holds itself in the market now. I will say that they're doing their best to try to get into business. There's now this new venture. What is it called? I had done a tweet on it. It's like what is it called? It's called something venture, and it's really targeted towards business. Because see, I always say the reason a lot of the pain that Apple experiences is that they didn't really make business products. And I'm actually in the middle of a debate with a user and saying, well, pro users don't count. Yes, they do. Business bleeds into homes, period. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Everybody takes their work home, especially within the tech industry. And the only products that are exempt from bleed through are like MP3 players or DVRs
and even that's not necessarily the case, because I can't count the number of people that will put manuals on tape on their MP3 players and other stuff for productivity on downtime.
I mean, you can't, and they're like saying, well, no, Apple has successfully made consumer products to business. No, they've basically had to capitulate and make their products work for business, or they just become obsolete. And that's the thing. I just don't like, because I got lambasted and read a tremendous amount of arrogant articles after this iPad 2 came out, and I don't like that flavor. That's not the old Apple crap.
Oh, I knew when Steve Jobs got up there on the Android sucks bashing thing, we're number one, in spite of the fact that half the things that are coming out of my mouth are just outright false. I knew the fanboys were going to be all in a tizzy, and those who haven't come out of the woodwork will over the weekend. That's just it.
Yeah, Apple used to have class. It didn't matter if Microsoft. You know what I'm saying? Finally, when they were able to get over it, it didn't matter that. Okay, Microsoft more market share. They did their thing, and that was good enough. But now, even in the keynotes, it's getting pretty outrageous in my opinion. It's not the typical Apple class that used to exist in my opinion.
I think you're living in a post-PC era. Haven't you heard? We're in the next PC era, man.
Well, see, I would say, like in one of my videos, yes, there's a post-PC era, because I think that a lot of what we're doing in computing is not hinged or founded.
Oh no! Did you miss that line? He said we're in a next PC era now.
Oh.
We're not. Yeah, he started off the conference saying this is our third post-PC announcement, and about halfway through he decided, no, we're not in post-PC. We're in next PC, and it's Apple. Apple is the next PC.
Huh. No, yeah. I don't know where to go. To be honest with you, man. It's I was a.
they did do some things right. You know, they got the dual core, which they had to do. Now they're saying 9 times faster graphics. Spec wise, that's probably true. With the memory being 512, practical use of that is going to be a different matter altogether. That was what I was wondering on that. They they claim they're the first dual core. We know bullshit. They did add the gyro, so you can take advantage of the iOS gyro APIs in iPads now, which is a good thing. They added cameras. They actually added 2. They added a front and back camera. So it's now on par with all the other iOS devices. For some reason, they made it thinner. 33% thinner. It's now 8.8 millimeters as opposed to 13.4.
See, to me, stuff like that, if it doesn't do what I need it to do, it's just a big paperweight, man. And even now, so now that it's lighter, it's just a lighter paperweight. I mean, it's I basically posted on Twitter that it was just too much fluff, and I'll wait for.
Well, no, much to a lot of people's surprise, he's going to get flagged for this. We said this earlier. There is a white one, supposedly, and supposedly it's going to be available at shipping. And I do find it funny that everybody just kind of chuckled at that. They couldn't keep a straight face with that.
I've realized, I don't know, I guess over the last year or so, from the ramp up of, I'd say post-leopard going into snow leopard, I've noticed a drastic change in Apple from what I was used to.
My personal opinion. Now you're an Apple fan, and you love Apple, and you like Apple products, at least the ones you're using, and and Phil over here has them. But my personal opinion is Apple as a company could give a shit about users with a brain in their head. I think their honest assessment is we want people who only want to buy shiny things. We want to jingle shiny things in front of them and have them come buy them, and then we'll tell them why next year's shiny thing is better than the shiny thing they have, so they come buy another one. I honestly think that's what Apple wants to reduce their customer base to. Get rid of the 10 to 20% of users that actually want to do work with their device, that actually want to do anything, and just say, we want morons who will buy whatever we put back that is a slightly incremental improvement over the old thing because they've bought our magic. It's like, I have some magic beans for you, Jack. Will you give me that cow? It's like, that's...
Oh, and did you see that application business? See, there again, they had the honeycomb logo right there in the keynote talking about application. I'm going to say it again, and I will have a whole video dedicated to this. Apps, when you reach a certain number, don't mean shit anymore.
Well, no,
it gets overcrowded. You lose everything valuable, and you get the 80-20. You get the 80-20 rule. 80% crap, and maybe 20% good.
Well, no, that was the exact thing that popped. That conversation we had in PC versus Mac about once you get too many apps, like you're talking about, you can't find the crap from the cream. Yeah, it's just you can't do it. I was like bragging when they started bragging that, I'm like, whoa. 60.
Yep.
I can actually find good apps in Android right now because there's so few of them. It's like they'll stand out like a razor wire.
Again, it goes to my analogy. Are these people channel surfers? Do they literally have that much time to go through thousands and thousands of apps? And are they really going to load thousands and thousands of apps on their device and just bog it down?
There are some people doing that. There are iPad users who have loaded 10, 20,000 apps that they're like, I can't load more because I filled my 64 gigs. I would load more, but I filled my 64 gigs. I think they're very much the exception, not the rule.
The sad thing is they spent $400 or $500 to get that, dude.
Yeah. Now, Apple did do some things right. This one is launching on both Verizon and AT&T.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Their logistics are impeccable.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim Cook, when they Apple, when they do a show, it's usually 2 weeks from now, boom, you're going to get the product. You know, it's embarrassing to other companies, really. Their competition, they are the masters of logistics and pumping their products out.
Yeah. Now, what I am waiting to see is what the data plans are going to be. Because based on the data plans Verizon's giving the Zoom, I'm not seeing the most favorable data plans for the iPad. They might do something weird, but the reality, and of course, I was kind of laughing at this because the other feature, of course, it is 3G only, no LTE, and there's no data increase. You know, it's still 16, 32, or 64 gig.
Yeah, that's right.
It's still basically the same pricing. The 3G is $130 more than the Wi-Fi only version. You know, pretty much across the board. But I honestly want to see on that, because one of the features they did add, you know, that's part of the new iOS, is they're adding tethering. You know, about damn time. Of course, I kind of laugh at that because I'm like, okay, so you add tethering now that there's data caps in place across the board to make sure that tethering is basically worthless.
Yeah. They also in the keynote said, oh, you can have a Wi-Fi hotspot now.
That's what I was referring to. Wi-Fi hotspot and tethering, and I'm like, great features that now that I can't get unlimited data, I can't use. It's like, because I guarantee you, there's no way you can, even if you have a grandfathered plan, that you can upgrade to this device in AT&T or Verizon. They're not going to let you. They're going to say, no, your grandfathered plan is not eligible for this device. You must give away unlimited data to upgrade. You know, I guarantee you that's the rule.
Right. Well, it's like I was saying, the eventual thing is that no, the iPad will not maintain the majority of market share, just like the iPhone, and you know they'll have a good presence, but Apple, as its past, has always enjoyed being first and successful of getting it to market. They're great. They've always been good at that. But then
they get arrogant.
They have a problem with maintaining. It's I think what it just comes down to. I can't put my finger on it, but it's like history constantly repeats itself.
Honestly, what I think it is they start to buy their own hype. How can you honestly get up there on stage and spend 2 hours telling everybody that you're the best and not believe it?
Now I'll have that with a caveat. The process for them to where they get to be number one and then they taper off, they've already made a ton of money and are laughing it to the bank anyway. I mean, look, they sold 15 million iPads. They're going to the bank, big happy smile.
And then they got up and told everyone they sold them to that they're obsolete.
Yeah. I'm talking about in principle. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about things in principle, and of course, there's tons of profit to be made. And selling somebody a pet rock, for instance, you know, it could be completely useless, but if you market it with the cool and you got the gumption, sure, sell 15 million pet rocks, and you can go to the bank with a big smile. You know,
I personally have ethical problems with that. I prefer to be selling a good product rather than just blindly following the pursuit of the almighty Aller. You know, now moving on to the accessories. You know, they've added an HDMI cable.
Yes, it makes it look like a homemade bomb, doesn't it?
Well, there's not just that. If it's as short as the one they were showing in the pictures, I'm like. And, you know, apparently the idea with this HDMI cable is you're going to pay, I think it's, $39, so $40 to be able to connect it to your Apple TV. And some of what they were showing off there was basically your iPad will become like a big remote control for your Apple TV. But I'm like, it's on a tethered cord. So it's like a remote control from a cheap motel. I'm like, wait a minute. You trust me so little I can't, like, talk to them wirelessly or something? You and
I were both correct. There's no wireless anything. No OTG.
No, everything's cabled. Everything's cabled. Physical connections. Everything's physical.
And they're going to charge us, what, $40, $50 to get, or $40 to get it. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You know, them saying that, you know, that it's great and everything else, surely that can only go so far. I mean, you'd have to be nuts to pay those prices for a cable, surely.
Oh, no. It's got to have the Apple proprietary magic. And I think they've solved the third-party cases and stuff, because with those screen covers. In that, you know, I'm sure eventually, like 6-8 months from now, there'll be non-Apple branded versions of those.
Oh, you mean that smart cover? That smart cover's pretty. I like the smart cover. It's pretty cool. I mean.
Oh no, it looks cool, and I guarantee the whole reason for that redesign, for putting these magnets in there like they do in the Mac Pro and everything else.
I was posting. I was like, oh, I hope it's not too close to batteries or other parts. and then I started making more jokes. I was like, gee, I wonder if I can stick this to my refrigerator.
Well, but you would have to stick it the other way, screen facing the fridge.
But the smart cover is pretty cool.
No, well, what that is a redesign that's both cool and gives Apple what they've always wanted, which is a case that basically they're the only ones that can do that, because everybody else has to get their hands on an iPad, figure out where these magnets are, and then they know what specs they need to produce theirs to.
Yeah.
So it's going to be 6 months before we see non-Apple branded versions of this thing that's compatible with the iPad. So Apple basically has just given themselves a 6-month exclusive on screen protectors / cases.
Sure.
Which
it's cool. I was like, wow, that's pretty.
It's cool, but I'm not sure it's $40 / $70 cool.
Yeah.
20 / $50 maybe, not 40 / $70.
Yeah. Well, look, beyond the arrogance that I didn't like in the thing, that to me this keynote was rather weak, and really it was, in my opinion, Android and everybody else, we have dual core, 2 cameras, and what else or whatever they added, 2. That's how
that's the other thing. This is the second announcement Apple's done. The last one was obviously the iPhone 4. But this is the second announcement Apple's done where their big upgrade to their device is they kinda, in that they brought it within distance of the line that everybody else has already crossed, so they can at least see the line. It's like, okay, that line everybody else crossed a while ago? Okay, we can now see it from where we are. And this is the second announcement Apple's done like that. It's like we're now like everybody else, and so we're better again.
I miss the old days, man. I really do. It's like, well, this is all risk with the mobile devices, but I don't know. It's like maybe I'm being too nostalgic or something. It just feels different.
You're talking about the circa year 2000 Apple. Apple hasn't been that since about 2004, 2005. And they're getting further and further away from it every day. Moving along that chain of logic, actually, there was one thing about the iOS upgrade that I just kind of had to go a little sly at. And it didn't hit me until Steve Jobs started going over it. And I realized something. The equivalent of iLife for iOS, iMovie, GarageBand, all these apps that are the equivalent of iLife for the iOS platform, are not included. Part of the whole Apple experience is you get the Apple experience. You get all the stuff, it comes with it. With iOS, the Apple experience is a luxury extra that you have to buy. And that hadn't really crossed my until he started getting up there and pointing out that all of these, what are the equivalent of the iOS iLife experience, are all $5 apps that you have to buy individually. And it was one of those things, I'm like, I understand making the people with the old system buy them, but not the people buying the brand new product. Why aren't they preloaded on the brand new product? You know, like iLife is on any Mac, and it's not. Like I get the having to buy the upgrade. I get that, but why aren't these new devices shipping with it? I'm confused. That's what because that was actually the whole like Apple sales thing. Oh, you get the iExperience, and now the iExperience is a luxury extra. That's
yeah, a lot of stuff has changed. You know, they used to, we'd get those remotes with the Macs, and they had the magnet strip on the side where you could put the little remote for front row, and I don't know, all these little things, and we never had to pay for cables before. It's just
oh no! Every cable on a Mac, $5, $20, $20.
Well, we got a lot of cables before, like with iPods and stuff like that. And
now you're lucky if you get the one.
Back in the day, you'd get all the accessories. It was about the package experience. Now, I don't know, it's...
now it's about the nickel and dimey experience.
Or getting less for more money by the sounds of it, or giving less for more money by the sounds of it.
Well, we can't say more money with the iPad, because they did keep the same pricing. You know, it's not like they raised the price.
And although that seems to be what some people were saying, is that was one thing they had to keep the same. So from that point of view, that could be why some of the things that Android has had into it, iOS, the iPad hasn't, is because like the tablets that are coming out at the moment are around the $600, $7 mark, aren't they?
Yeah, right now the Android tablets, at least the ones you want to buy, are about are $70 to $100 more than Apple.
All right, okay. The Motorola Zoom. Its base model is what, 32 gigs, or?
I'd have to go double check, but I want to say yes. I should know this. I've looked at it enough.
Yeah, I want to see something right here because we're talking about pricing. You know, everybody was balking at the price of the Motorola Zoom, but. You know, I was saying, well, darn, you know, I want to see, you know, what is the difference here in specs, and I've never really even bothered to look it up. I kind of just took the sound bites as they came. You know, hey, there's gonna.
I'll say this: it's thicker. I think that's the real reason the iPad's thinner, because this is thicker. This is thinner than the iPad 1, but it's thicker than the iPad 2. Actually, I want to say gig. Yes, it's got 32 gig internal memory.
Okay, its base model is 32 gig?
Yes. Well, Android, it works a little different. What it is it's got 32 gig internal, and then you can add more by adding, you know, cards.
There's this. Okay. All right.
So the $800 one that's subsidized for $599 is 32 gig.
Okay, so they're subsidizing it to $600 for 32 gigs. Is that what Verizon's doing?
Right.
And it's a Wi-Fi only, or does it have?
No, it's 3G. You know, with the Wi-Fi locked until you pay that first month of service.
Oh, well, crap!
Yeah.
It's cheaper than the freaking iPad then.
If you run all the maths, yeah. But it's the unsubsidized price that it's...
Okay, unsubsidized, it's what? It's $60 difference?
No, unsubsidized, it's $800.
Right, and iPad 32 gig with 3G is $729.
Right. So, yeah.
So, $800, $729? Motorola's well in the ballpark. And for more powerful hardware, hello.
Okay.
I don't understand this. See, now I'm trying to actually see really where is the iPad, because I refuse to believe that prices are actually this magical. That everybody's like saying, oh, you know, it's Apple's volume stuff. They keep forgetting they're talking about a 16 gig Wi-Fi version only, which is $500.
Yeah, but it's the perception, and it's one of the ways in which I think the Zoom. We're getting into PC versus Mac, but it's one of the ways in which I think the Zoom screwed up, The Zoom should have launched its Wi-Fi version, and incidentally enough, the Wi-Fi version of the Zoom is supposed to be $600. Now, that's still going to be a tiny bit cheaper, but it's one of those, it's the perception. Starting price 600/800 versus starting price 500/ it's a psychological thing more than anything else. You're right. If you do spec to spec, spont, yada yada, but it's the psychological thing, and the end user is very emotional.
But I don't think they're looking at the facts.
Well,
I can't believe that. So we're basically saying the majority of consumers who just don't take the time to do the research.
No, the majority of consumers go, "Oh, shiny, shiny." I need to do that. I need to like get an animation made where we have the end user just be like a Muppet. "Ooh, shiny." And they're like following it around. It's just.
Right, so how much is it? How much is the Samsung Galaxy, that newest one?
Yeah, depends who you buy it from. It can be as much as the Zoom.
Okay, wait a minute now. Check this out. It's going to be 4G. If you do Verizon, even it's subsidized. Okay, you're subsidizing $600. You get 4G. And you get.
You're going to have to be without your device for 2 weeks to get that. But yes, it's going to be upgraded to 4G.
I understand. And dual core one, and then where's their damn? I'm trying to find the damn flash memory on here on the Verizon side, but you said it was 32.
Look at the very bottom of the page. Internal memory. Under technical specifications.
Look at that. That's crazy. I'm sorry.
And it has a gig of RAM as opposed to 512. So it's still, I wouldn't buy. If you're gonna buy a Zoom and you're willing to sign that $80 Verizon contract, I would wait 60 days. I would wait for the flash update to come out. I would wait for some. I would wait.
Hello. Let's see. $729 versus $800. Okay, we're talking about what? I mean, geez, $80, and then you get 4G. And a faster tablet, which is going to incorporate the entire Android marketplace anyway. I think, hell no. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm making I'm busting this.
People, you're watching Bit convert his religion right in front of you.
It's too stupid to like miss, you know. I never bothered to like check. I was like, yeah, okay, Apple's cheaper, but I'm doing the fact checking here. What are people talking about? It's a magically cheaper thing.
It's $80 is what it is. If you sign the contract, it's not. So yeah.
If you sign a contract, you save yourself $129. Hello.
Yeah.
That's half your contract price right there, right? If you break it. Jesus.
Oh, but the cancellation fee is like almost $400.
Oh, is it? Oh,
and the other thing about that contract, given the grace period you'll get to like 1 day before the time you're supposed to cancel it, and your cancellation fee will be like $120.
Wow. So okay, so that's pretty fairly cheap. Now, who sells that those Samsung tablets? I want to see. Who sells those Samsung ones?
I think V actually has them actually.
Who?
The Galaxy is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's supposedly coming to AT&T.
It's $249. Galaxy Tab from $249.
Yeah, well, again, it depends what carrier you get it with. It's cheap on T-Mobile. It's not so cheap on Verizon.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's see. Verizon. Let's give me pricing here. If I, wait. Yeah, let's see. Verizon is. Oh, it doesn't show me a price here. Shop, I guess. But do you agree that this? I mean, if it doesn't have honeycomb, it's not.
And we don't know when or if the tab's going to get honeycomb. And the other, since we're going into Android theater right now, we should bring up that the Atom is likely to come out sometime this year. So it's.
trying to see these prices. It's about $500 each of them, or $500. I don't know how powerful these things are, but I'm just curious. Yeah, it's part. This is, you feel it's not iWorld, but I think it's part of it. Steve Jobs stepped in it. He's clearly.
Oh no, he spent half the thing bashing frickin' Android. I guess it's fair to bring the turnabout in here. It's, I think you're right. I think on some levels there is a feel of threat there. The end consumer will decide. That being said, I'm sure they're going to sell millions of iPads. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's like in economics. What my degree is in a perfect competition, nobody would make money because of the factor of opportunity cost. But the reason why it is not that way is because accounting doesn't assign a dollar value to its opportunity cost. So you make money. It's kind of like the same long-term effect. There's going to be tons of money to be made until you lose market share.
Well, but see, here's the thing. Another thing to bring into this, though, is how quickly will Apple lose market share? Because Apple stood up there and said 90%, and as you pointed out, they're actually under 75%. It's like of course they stood up there and said 90% because they're trying to push this 30%, cut of everything. And everything else, like the bigger their numbers, the better. Like, you can't afford to do business without us, whether we're entitled to it or not. The next 6 months are going to be very telling all around, and we still don't know what the heck's going to happen with WebOS. We have ideas, but we're going to have to see how the next 6 months lay out. It's going to be very interesting.
Yep. And you know what? I would have delayed, because here's the thing. There's not going to be another iPad until next year, because they made it clear. This is iPad 2 for 2011 is the year of 2011 is the year of iPad 2. So that's done for the hardware. That actually gives all the current competitors to get ready for their second generations and beef up on applications, because then they can wait until after the iPad tries to come out with iPad 3 and then just one up them with their own hardware. And by that time they'll have likely, Android's going to have a ton of apps ready to go for this tablet.
My personal hope is that both Hewlett-Packard and all the people making Android tablets do that. The Zoom has problems because they wanted to release before Apple. There's no reason whatsoever to do that. Wait till April, release the one-upsmanship, and just steamroll over them. You don't have to be first, you just have to be best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this sets up a pretty good strategy for Apple's competition to be able to now be in check with them. Because everybody's spit their wad now, and Apple, I think, we're somewhat caught up to you. But there's nothing in software that I see that's anything exciting in terms of connectivity. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of BlackBerry's connectivity and HP's.
Well, and getting back on Apple, this is another change that's going on in Apple as a company. Apple's official stance on when there was a problem or when they were losing was to pretend it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Apple's clearly rejected that old stead philosophy and has embraced one of, not only do you exist, but the following false facts is why we're better. It's like, we're going to give free ads in our announcement to you. I did find it interesting, though, that this was not streamed anywhere. This announcement.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't. You're right.
Yeah, it was. It was almost like this was a private powwow between Apple and the press and Apple developers to say, we're the best because, and we need to convince you people of that. And honestly, I think Apple is very annoyed that we live in the 21st century and that between the live bloggers and the people who are probably going to wind up on the Apple blacklist who had their cell phones on streaming audio out and everything else, that all of us know every freaking thing they said. It's like, we know Steve Jobs got up there and said, this makes everything all those other people bought shit. That's what we designed it to do. It's like, we know that he got up there and spent the first third of the announcement talking about Android. It's like, we all know this, and I really think these are things Apple would prefer we not know. I think that was very much for the people in that room, and they didn't want anybody else to know. I think that's a concept Apple hasn't really gotten used to yet, that whether you lock us out of it or not, we're all going to hear everything that went on in that room, and we're going to have actual first-hand accounts so we know whether or not it's a fib or not.
Right.
It's like, so I'm waiting for the Apple fanboys to explain to me why the next PC is better, you know. Anything else we want to say on this, or do we want to kind of wrap up there?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't that impressed, and that's all I have to say.
It was classic Apple. That's what it was. It was classic Apple. However, there were two things that were not classic Apple. And we've lost Phil. Phil? Phil! Oh, wherefore thou art Phil! Okay, there were two things that were... Oh, there he goes. Why'd you hang up? Bad Phil. There were two things that were not classic.
The audio's gone a bit funny, just to let you know.
Okay. There were two... there was no one more thing. Apple's had a...
No, there wasn't one more. That's right.
Apple's had a one...
This was really... Yeah, that's the thing I get...
Still doesn't sound right.
Can you at least hear us?
I'm from it because I feel like, you know, this is all bullshit. But when I calm down from all this stuff, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, there was the no one more thing, and the other thing... If hold on. Phil, can you at least hear us? Phil? Phil?
Still can't hear you.
He can't hear us. I can hear him. He can't hear us. I'll tell him we can hear him. We can hear you. But the other thing is, I'm not an Apple.
It seemed like Apple wanted to try to piss farther.
Yeah, well,
and that's not Apple style. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the other thing that was going on with this, hopefully Phil can hear us at some point, but the other thing that was atypical about this Apple announcement, you know, I don't know if this is indicative of writing being on the wall, of Steve being pissed, I don't know, but I'm not a fan of Apple, but Apple announcements have always at least been entertaining. You know, rather they're spouting Apple magic, which is another word for BS, or rather they're stating facts, or rather they're rubbing people's noses and statistics. You know, they at least keep it entertaining. There was a period of about an hour of this Apple announcement where me and almost every journalist covering it just got bored and started talking about other stuff and moved on, and they were just like, you know, they're like glancing. I was like, well, let's not. Oh, they're still on about that. You know, it's like they, for the first time in a long time, not only did Apple, you know, break with the pattern, did they break character, did they do other things, but they lost almost everybody. You know, it was just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. God, get back to something of relevance. It's like, most of that was during all the, you know, the stretching out of the iOS stuff. But it was one of those, I think it's been, I'm trying to remember the last time Apple, since they got to this announcement style things, that they've just flat out bored their audience.
You think they're okay? All right. I was just like, wow.
Well, no, that's exactly what it was. But and now he's gone again. It's like, okay. Well, before the Skype gods come smite us, we want to say anything else, or we want to just kind of tail off here? I'm not sure there is any. I'm not sure there is anything else to say really on this. I mean, we could go into some what the F lands, but we've kind of covered what, like, it's partially upgraded, not what it should be. As before, you have to pay for iLife, and it's hardware everything. So, buy your iPad 2 so it can be made obsolete in a year.
I guess, yeah. You know, I don't know if they're saying they're having supply problems, but I don't know if that really is the case, or they feel that they're not going to sell as many iPad 2s.
I think they're doing what they always do, and they're doing a short stock to make sure they sell out. And I think they're doing more of a short stock than usual, because when they launched the iPad, it didn't sell out. You remember, the iPad was the first device Apple had launched in a long time where it didn't sell out. It did eventually, but usually what happens with an Apple launch is they launch it, and for the first 2 weeks you can't go buy one anywhere. That was not the case with the iPad. You could go buy one. Now, a month later, like when they got around to announcing the iPhone, they had managed, because they didn't restock anybody, to sell out. But it didn't. They didn't fly off the shelves instantly and just sell out like they usually do. It was one of those, and it was one of those things. Very few people pointed out. You know, everybody's saying they've sold a lot. They've sold a lot. I just don't go buy one. It's been out for a week. You know, it's still there at the Apple Store and the Best Buy and the. It's not like I can't go buy one. It's selling well, but it's not a sellout like Apple usually does. So, and they don't want that.
Apple knows how to market. I don't know. I will give them that. Today, Apple knows how to get their products out. From what we can see, they don't bullshit around. You know, they have a keynote, the product's coming out within a couple of weeks, or maximum a month, and they know how to get the cool factor going. Because they certainly do wow a lot of people, and then people get into that and want to buy it, and maybe go home and go, oh well, geez, I just laid down $600, and maybe they're just happy with it. But
well, that's what the restocks for. That's what the restock fees for. You know, buyer's remorse. There's a penalty. It's like, hopefully we did not have any audio glitches in this one. It looks like we didn't, but I'm not going to know till I get into actually publishing it. And we're sorry we lost Phil. You know, maybe there's something going on with the pond. Maybe it's interfering. I don't know.
So was my camera way better this time around?
Yes, it was. Okay, let me stop the recording because we're getting into post show. Bye all.